If you're watching this right now and you haven't hit the like button, Billy, get on it. Bug your brother. Tell him to do the same. So last night, buddy, I was playing a fun little show that runs weekly in Calgary. So shout out to the Tea House in Calgary that runs every single Thursday. Great little comedy show if you're in Cowtown and want to check something out. But I was there and they had their 420 show going on. And they had a bunch of the young comics on the scene out there. And I was joking around with them at the beginning of the show there. And I had two little quips that both just fell dead to them.
Lovely.
And I was just like, great, I'm throwing a shit bullpen before I even hit the stage here. Great.
Yeah, that's a great analogy for it, isn't it?
That's literally how I had to spin it in my head. I was like, okay, don't worry about this. You know, guys have bad bullpens all the time and pitch great games. Like,
what were your quips
the show
that died?
Oh God, I don't even know.
Dance. There's nothing. Dance, monkey, dance. Come on.
Dance, monkey, dance.
No,
tell us the jokes. Tell us the jokes that didn't work, Scott.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Lots to talk about today on the show. We're going to get right into week 4 here and what's ahead schedule-wise for the Blue Jays. John Schneider and the way he calls and brings in guys from the bullpen. There are some question marks around it, so we are going to dive into that. Mad Max, Mr. Scherzer, had a little bit of a flip out there on Wednesday and is now serving a 10-game suspension due to the sticky stuff. Oakland, man, this drama going on with the Athletics and has been going on for like 10 years might be coming to an end, but in true Oakland fashion where they're still going to frickin' drag it out for another half a decade. So we'll talk that. They could be on the move to Vegas. Fenway Park, the oldest stadium in baseball currently, celebrated its 111th birthday. Fenway Park behind me here. I'm no Red Sox fan, but I do respect the just the history behind that building. So we'll talk Fenway a little bit, and then we're going to wrap things up. We've got a bunch of different subjects. We've only got 6 topics, so we're kind of cramming everything into this final topic where we'll bring up some good news in Liam Hendricks. Pablo Lopez looks like he's been signed. Bryce Harper, Mad Bum, few things to talk about there, and then we'll end on what you watching. All right, buddy. Before we get into this, though, this is becoming one of my favorite segments on the show, I think.
Oh,
baby.
Yeah. 3 studs.
3 studs. Yes. The rhyme scheme is great, but also I think it's great to highlight, people doing well. And I think it's super important as a sports fan to really kick a guy when he's down. So this segment does it all for me.
When I was a young lad, I don't know if this is still a thing. Anybody who still plays video games, specifically NHL video games.
I thought you were going to say Pogs, and I was going to be like, no, that's not a thing, Adam.
Pogs. No, I still got my my shredders, though. Okay, no. There used to be a thing, at a hockey game, there's like the 3 stars at the end of the game, first, second, and third.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is a real award or not, but in the video game, it was like the EA Sports Award. This is in like NHL 14, right? But it was the accumulation of most first, second, and third stars over the course of a season, right? Like you get more points for being a first star, more points, or second star and third star wouldn't get as much. But then it was like, I'm like, oh, that was always like a really cool idea to me. So we'll do this 3 studs and a dud all year long, and then by the end of the season, we'll have a look back and we'll be like, who was the most studliest of the team, and we'll hand out a cumulative award for whoever has most appearances in the 3 studs list. So that'll be something fun to do.
I like that you're spinning this like we pay attention to what we say throughout the year. I'm all for it.
I have a whole spreadsheet where I'm tracking all the studs and all the duds. It's the only thing I've ever tracked, so I really care about it. We'll see if this holds true by week 14, but here we go. Okay, let's start with stud number 3. Spoiler alert, not a lot of offensive studlies this week. But there was one. You know what? There was 2. Honorable mention to Mr. Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette hit .391, had an OPS of .895 this week. But
And we're just so used to Bo hitting 400 at this point that he doesn't even make the stud list.
exactly. Our number one, well, no, sorry, our number 3 stud, who is our number 1 offensive guy this week, I'm giving to Whit Merrifield. Whit Merrifield only played 4 games, so that was a real consideration. But Bo Bichette played all 6, of course. But Whit Merrifield, 467 batting average, OPS of 1134. He was a doubles machine this week. Yeah.
And earning that nickname, 2-hit Wit, right? Like he was just putting up multiple hit games. I think all 4 of those were multiple hit games.
Absolutely. So good performance from Whit Merrifield. Notable mention to Bo Bichette. Stud number 2. Going to the pitching staff now. A lot of contenders for studs this week from the pitching staff. But number 2 stud this week, week 3, Jordan Romano. 3 games, 3 save opportunities, 3 saves.
1 4-out performance where he came in with runners on base, which is always a Achilles heel of the man, and to see him come in and just shut the door.
So
beautiful.
1 long save for Romano, 0 walks versus 5 strikeouts. Did absolutely what we needed him to do. We got 3 wins this week, and he saved all 3 of those games. So stud number 2, Jordan Romano. Stud number 1, this one was tough. Couple starting pitchers in contention here. We got some really good performances from Jose Barrios, from Chris Bassett, from Yusei Kikuchi. Not the 3 guys we were counting on to have big games, but they all performed quite well. So ultimately, stud number 1 this week comes down to Chris Bassett.
Love it.
He got our lone win in Houston, pitched into the 7th inning. Stat line looks like this: 0 ERA, 6 1/3 innings pitched, and a whip of 0.63 with 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. So Chris Bassett, you're our number 1 stud of the week.
And well deserved, especially if you look back over his last 3 starts. I mean, if you just take out that first game of the year, he's sitting right now at 18.1 innings pitched, an ERA of 1.99, 17 K, so almost a K per inning, which is a little out of character for Chris Bassett. He's not really known as a strikeout guy, but you love to see those Ks up on him. He's not walking dudes. He is exactly as advertised. And I think he really has put a lot of us Blue Jays fans' minds at ease with these last 3 starts, because I know we were really in panic mode after that first start, but he is settled in. He is looking good in this Blue Jays uniform, and absolutely deserves to be the number 1 stud.
To add 1.036 for a whip in his last 3 starts. So
he's not giving up hits and he's not walking guys, and you gotta love to see it.
Especially on the tail of, like, he pitched right after that Kevin Gausman start, in which Gausman gave up 7 in the first. Honestly, honorable mention to Gausman for gutting out into the 5th inning, like, just to save our bullpen at all after a catastrophic start.
Truly.
Really good. Okay, who is our dud this week, you ask? Several contenders for duds. Offensively, it was a bleak, dismal week. Even guys like Matt Chapman, who had been hitting around 500 for the first 2 weeks of the season, hit 190 this week. Vladdy hit 174. Brandon Belt hit 125, so actually his average is coming up. Boom, roasted. Dalton Varsho, 105 this week. He's our dud of the week. Unfortunately, despite the really good start to the season, his bat has cooled off significantly. Hitting 105, 0 home runs. Vladdy was in contention, hitting 174, but he does have 1 home run, 2 RBIs. Dalton Varsho did not do much offensively this week. So Dalton Varsho, sad to say, I'm still going to buy a Dalton Varsho jersey. I got to figure out what color to get. Hint, it won't be light blue. But you're our dud this week.
wasn't on the show notes, so this is out of left field here. So get prepared to dance and
All right. I
ad
like
lib
this.
here.
I like this. Last time I had to dance and ad lib, I got roasted for being an idiot about pseudosciences and advanced stats. So I'm excited to see what kind of corner you paint me into today. Let's go. Lay it on me.
Are you worried about Danny Jansen? Currently, he sits at the negative 0.4 wins above replacement. He's had only 32 at bats, so it's tough to kind of judge what he's doing because he's not getting a ton of plate appearances, but he's hitting under 100. I know we haven't seen him struggle like this since the beginning of 2021. It had seemed like he had kind of found his swing, but he was getting everyday at bats when he finally put it together, even when he was struggling for the month of April. And that's not as much the case this season. Are you in any way concerned with what we have seen out of Mr. Jansen at the plate this season?
Well, I mean, you're really at the plate? Sure. In
Yeah.
general, no.
Okay.
And
that's why he's not that's why he wasn't the dud this week. And I knew that's why, because he has done a masterful job of...
Yeah, it's all relative, right? It's the same reason that Zach Pop wasn't a dud this week. Zach Pop, his ERA was 13. It's the only guy higher than Alek Manoah. Boom, roasted. But it's all relative, right? I don't expect much from Danny Jansen. His realistic ceiling is our number 7 hitter, maybe. When he's absolutely on fire, maybe he's hitting 5 or 6 if he's on a real heater. I'm not ever really, even though I would love, I know he's shown signs of it, that offensive pop. I don't really ever expect him to be an offensive threat, but he's also as competent behind the plate as it gets. And I do mean that as a compliment, even though that's
absolutely. I mean, we have
words.
seen already this season, right? When a guy has been blowing up or had trouble, they stick him with Danny Jansen to call the next game outside of Alek Manoah. And that has even been talked about amongst the Sportsnet analysts. I know friend of the show, Ben Nicholson Smith, brought it up about is there something there?
Give a pairing to Alek Manoah and Danny Jansen to get his head right. Yeah.
The pushback to that is that Kirk has to catch some of these guys, right? So
yes. I think here's where it kind of comes down. We just played Houston, right? Who's their catcher? Martin Maldonado.
Yes.
Not exactly an offensive juggernaut behind the plate.
Not a world beater by any means, no.
Although I say that now, I look at his career. Oh, no, wait. I was going to say his career batting average is 285. No, his career on base percentage is 285. Yes. Okay. I almost surprised myself with his offensive numbers, but no. Career batting average 208. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yes.
But he's maybe, is there a catcher in the game you'd rather have behind the plate in the World Series than Martin Maldonado? I asked this because this is what the broadcast asks, so I'm just trying to sound smart here.
Hey, but not Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker absolutely loves Martin Maldonado. He sticks him out there whenever there's a game on the line, right?
And I can already hear the keyboards clicking that Danny Jansen is not Martin Maldonado, and that's correct.
And that's correct.
Also, the catcher is not ever expected to be really an offensive position. If you get some, it's a bonus. That's how I always look at catcher.
Now, that said, there were expectations on Danny Jansen this year being more of an offensive threat than we are seeing out of him currently.
Yeah, and I'm one of the guys that expected more.
Yeah, me too.
I've definitely expected more, but I'm also not worried. I still think by the end of the season, we're going to look at a guy who's hitting 225, 230, and has 15 home runs.
See, I truly thought that Danny would break 20 home runs this season, and I am definitely doubting that prediction now. I mean, it is still very early, but we've seen, his bat's been anemic. It's been almost non-existent. So it would be nice to see him even just career average, right? Which isn't great, right? He's about a 220 career average hitter with some pop. But if we can see a little bit more of that Danny Jansen and a little bit less of the automatic out Jano, good news for the Jays.
Yeah, I haven't, to be honest, watched enough of his at bats, so I can't really speak to how he looks in the batter's box. Like, I don't know, does he look rigid? Does he look like he's
He looks
missing?
off.
He looks off.
Like
Okay.
he just looks like he doesn't have his swing right now. Which again, it does kind of make sense because he's not getting the everyday at bats that he was yesterday that he was last season. Yeah, yesteryear. There you go.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I mean, he's a new dad, a brand new baby at home. Maybe that has impacted
his sleep.
I don't know, going into spring training. Like maybe it's just he's still missing home. I don't know. I'm sure he'll get it settled. He'll get it sorted. If we're doing a confidence measurement between Jansen, Biggio, and Belt, I would still say Jansen is my far and away number one guy to have better numbers at the end of the year.
For those of you, the grounds crew out there, would love to hear your confidence level between those three. Biggio,
isn't that an
Belt,
ugly
and Jansen?
Trio?
It's an ugly trio. That is not who you want to see coming to the plate.
It's a Bermuda's triangle of offense, where offense goes to disappear.
Okay, in true walk-off fashion here, we've gotten very long in the tooth and have yet to even hit topic number 1. So, preview week 4 of this Toronto Blue Jays season. The team sitting at 11-8. They've had a pretty decent start so far to this 2023. Yes, they have lost some games that they could have won, and that always hurts a little bit more as a fan to watch that go down. The last game against Houston, obviously the prime example of that. But to be 3-3 after coming out of that 6-game set against the Rays and the Astros, not so bad. And now heading into New York to play the damn dirty Yankees. Of course, man, I was reading through the comments of yesterday's show, and there was a Yankees comment there that was like, once the injured Yankees win 2 out of 3, I can't wait to hear all the excuses Blue Jays Nation's making. Which that comment rubbed me the wrong way so many ways. You know, just I was number one. I'm like, shut up, okay? Yankees fans coming in, leaving lame ass comments. But of course he mentioned the injured part, right? He's like just setting it up so that he has an excuse when the Yankees lose 2 of 3, and he'll be like, oh, we're not even at full health. Anyways, the Blue Jays are playing the Yankees this weekend.
Yep.
Before they head to Chicago to play the White Sox. It is in Chicago, right? That's they're still on the road for the next 6 games here, or do they head back to Toronto for Chicago?
No, the White Sox series is in Toronto.
In Toronto. So the road trip wraps up here in New York. That is good news. Pitching matchups. Let's get into it, Adam.
Okay, pitching matchups. I just want to start by saying tonight's game, Apple TV.
Yes.
Bummer. It is a Yusei Kikuchi start, KKKK Coochie, versus Domingo Sticky Stuff. I swear it's just rosin and sweat, Herman. I kind of expect this to be a good pitching matchup, to be honest.
So do I.
Kikuchi's rolling, man. He's off to a good start. Great spring training. He had the one blip of an outing, but like, if this is Kikuchi, I'll take him this year. Like,
if you give me a blip, a Kikuchi blip, 1 out of every 4 starts, I can survive on that.
If it's 1 really good start, 2 okay starts, and 1 ugly start, and that's the 4-game rotation, I'll take that. Yeah.
That's your 5th starter.
Give me 6 months. Yeah, from a 6th starter with a 4.7 ERA, sure. You know, pitch into the 5th or 6th innings, get out of the 2nd and 3rd nonsense. Yeah, that's matchup number 1. Matchup number 2, Saturday. It's a afternoon game, 1:00 Eastern. Alek Manoah versus Garrett Cole.
obviously this one is on a lot of Blue Jays fans' radar. It's probably on a lot of Yankees fans' radar. This could be a heated contention, game full of contention. It could also be a big letdown. I'm kind of worried about this game, Adam, and I would love to hear how the grounds crew out there is feeling about it. Walk-off listeners, what are you thinking? Garrett Cole, Alek Manoah. Manoah has struggled in 2023.
It's a rough one. I'm worried about it too. I mean, I'm optimistic in the Alek Manoah does historically pitch really well against the Yankees. This could be the get right game that we need from him.
And I wouldn't put it past him.
That's what I'm hoping for.
I would absolutely not put that past him.
Now, if he does put up another stinker,
oh God,
is your confidence level
going to be
in the
I
single digits?
I just don't want that because our comment section is going to be littered with Yankees fans.
I know.
Yeah, my confidence in Alek Manoah is waning. Listen, I know. I think it's such an interesting topic when you're talking Alek Manoah, because long term, I have all the confidence in the world in Alek Manoah. I already know what he is. Mm-hmm. He's a stud who is going to be at the top 1-2 of this rotation until 2028. He is going to contribute to this team and their playoff window every single year. However,
the 2024 AL Comeback Player of the Year.
That's my fear, man. That is literally my fear.
Yeah. Here's the thing: is like, I'm really trying to talk myself into like being optimistic about this start against the Yankees. If it goes sideways, I'm gonna be on a like buckle up for the foreseeable future. And it might be the rest of the season. I don't think the rest of the season will be this bad, but it also could be like really bad until the All-Star break, and then he could be lights out in the second half.
But you know how ridiculous I am, Adam? I honestly, if he comes out and pitches a lights out game against the Yankees, I'm literally prepared to wash my hands of his troubles and being like, Alex back, no big deal. And I mean that.
Right now, I need 2 in a row from him before just if the playoffs were to start today, kind of a measurement, right? And you go, we got game 1 of the wild card series. Who's your guy, right? Right now, it's Kevin Gausman. Despite the clunker he had yesterday or last week, that's a wash. Alek Manoah, I would need to see 2 in a row lights out performances before I'm willing to wash my hands of that. No, right now,
which is
for me, it is
again.
Gausman,
I know it's ridiculous.
It's
kind of silly. Yeah,
it's Gausman, it's Bassett, and then guess what? Might be. No, it's still probably Alek Manoah in a game 3, but I'm not feeling good about it. But I can't see myself giving the ball to Yusei Kikuchi over Alek Manoah in a game 3 series deciding playoff matchup. I just can't. I hope I hope at no point this season do I ever feel confident in that.
How many more good starts out of Barrios do you see before you're a believer?
Well, 2 in a row. That was good.
Yes, I know.
So it's 2 clunkers, 2 good ones. If the next one's good, and it doesn't have to be 7 innings of 2-hit baseball for me to feel good. I just need more than 2 innings of 7-run baseball. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if he could pitch into like we'll talk his start against the White Sox here in a bit. But yeah, if he could go like 6 innings and give up 2 or 3 runs, like, I mean, I don't think. Look, it's going to be late August of him pitching well 85% of the time before I feel good about Jose Barrios and thinking the troubles are behind him. Like, just on a day-to-day basis of, do I feel good about Jose Barrios this week? No, I don't. I think either outcome is likely, that he is out after the 2nd inning or out after the 7th inning. And I think he's probably due for a stinker I know that's not how stuff really works, but
Could he change your mind if he comes out and he pitches the next 3 games, 6 innings minimum, and only allows 2 to 3 runs each game?
the next
3
3
good starts in
games,
a row, which would make it 5 solid starts. Does that give you more confidence? Does that allow you to be like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to wait till August.
no.
No,
If he goes, okay, so his
not
next
after
start is
last
against the
year.
White Sox, and then it's into Fenway for the series opener there, and then it's into Pittsburgh. No, I'm not gonna feel like I would just feel like he's being streaky. This is Jose Barrios. Sometimes he's lights out. Sometimes he's not. I just need to see more often than not that he's not.
And
My
that is very
confidence in
fair.
Jose Barrios is so low. mean,
I feel the same way.
As much as I'm grateful for, like, and I do acknowledge, like, he's got the stuff. When he's on his game, he pitches incredibly well. I have seen enough to have made that's what it, we're on the 3rd season.
We've
of
seen
Jose
too
Barrios.
much, Adam. That's our problem. We've seen too much.
We're too enlightened here.
We're too enlightened here.
Okay, so we've gone through the first 2 Yankee games. 3rd Yankee game is Kevin Gausman versus Clark Schmidt. That should be a bounce back game for Kevin Gausman.
I think it will be.
I don't foresee 2 bad starts from him.
Zero. We've just talked confidence on these other pitchers here. Your confidence in Kevin Gausman unwavering after the last start, right?
Yes, no wavering yet, but if the Yankees beat up on him, I might start to be concerned, and here's why. Last year, he started the season with a splitter that was unhittable. And then all of a sudden, it just felt like the league had figured him out. Was he tipping his pitches? That was the question. If we do see another start like he just had against the Astros, I'm going to start to wonder, okay, he must be tipping his pitches. Something must be going on. Season-long confidence won't waver, but for the immediate future, for his next start, I would be worried if this one against the Yankees is bad. That being said, Yankees are putting Clark Schmidt on the mound, who has an ERA of 8.79 and a WHIP of 1.88 across 3 starts this year. So
he gives up hits, he gives up walks.
Should be a good game for Blue Jays in that one. Record against the Yankees, you think they're taking 2 of 3, or do you think we're taking 2 of 3?
I think this series, I'm going to go with positivity here, buddy. I'm going to predict the Jays take 2 of 3. That's more just wishful thinking. I do think that these 2 teams match up really well against each other. I don't think that the Jays are outmatched. Even if the Yankees take all 3 of these games, I still feel that way. Although I will say I really want to see a good first game out of this series. I want to see Yusei Kikuchi go in there and pitch 5 innings and not give up too much runs, not give up too many hits, give them a good chance to win. And then from there, who knows?
Well, I'm going to go 1-2 for the Blue Jays this week against the Yankees. It is in New York. Home field advantage is a thing. We're on the road. If it was a 4-game series, I'd probably say 2-2 split. But I do think we're evenly matched. I'm not scared of the Yankees like I have been in years past, but our offense has cooled off. Alek Manoah versus Garrett Cole. I feel very worried about that matchup.
Listen, Garrett Cole is putting on a clinic this season. The guy has been almost unhittable. He's sitting currently, I think it's 3-0 on the season. He's 0.95 ERA.
4-0, but yes.
4-0 on the season. There you go. So he's yet to lose a start. He doesn't give up runs this season. I mean, an ERA under 1. The guy's been unhittable. I hate it.
The WHIP of 0.74, 0 home runs. 32 walks versus, 32 strikeouts versus 8 walks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is
He's looking
unfortunately
like
having a Cy
he's
Young
looking like a
season this
300.
year.
Yeah, he's looking like a $300 million
Yeah.
pitcher this season.
So I would say things have to really go off the rails for the Yankees, for the Blue Jays to compete in that particular matchup. I do feel good about the Kevin Gausman matchup, but then Kikuchi versus Domingo Germán. For me,
Listen, if the
that's
Jays can take 2 of 3 out of this series and they can come back to Rogers Center after a very difficult road trip of Tampa Bay I guess Tampa they played in Toronto. However, a
right.
very difficult road trip of Houston into New York, and they can come out of that three-team meat grinder
Mhm.
at 5-4. That is something you can hang your hat on moving forward. This is one of the tougher 9-game stretches the Blue Jays are going to go through this entire season.
Yep.
So a 2-win series victory in New York would be massive. I'm not feeling overly confident, and I don't think it's going to affect the season all that much if they wind up taking 1 of 3. But yeah, you got to get those wins against these division rivals. It does matter. It is a big deal, especially considering this AL East is going to really come down to it, is what it's looking like here between the Rays, the Yankees, the Jays, and even the Orioles are in it right now.
Then we got 3 against the White Sox. White Sox struggling this year. They're at 7-12, 4th place in the AL Central. We got Chris
And they're
Bassett.
coming to Rogers Center. Yeah.
Yep. We got Chris Bassett versus Lucas Giolito. I feel good in that matchup. Giolito doesn't scare me. Bassett's pitching very well. Game number 2, they got Mike Clevenger versus Jose Barrios. That might be a tough one for us. It depends which Barrios shows up, I think. Clevenger
depends which Clevenger shows up, too.
Yeah. Good point. And then in the final game of the week, the series closer, we got Yusei Kikuchi. So it's a 2 Kikuchi week. Last week we had a 2 Barrios start week. I was not confident in that, although Barrios really impressed. 2 Kikuchi starts this week. I feel better than I did last week, so I'm sure it'll go terribly because what do I know? They're putting Michael Kopech to the mound. He's got a 6 ERA and a whip of 1.66. 7 home runs given up. So the boys should feast, hopefully. This is we got to take 2 out of 3 against the White Sox at home.
I would agree.
White Sox aren't so bad that you can expect a sweep. Sweeping is hard even against bad teams, right? But you got to do 2 out of 3 against the White Sox at home, for sure. So I'm saying 3-3 this week. I'll be happy with 3-3.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. Let's talk John Schneider bullpen decisions.
Yes, I really can't wait to dig into this. Listen, and we have talked about this a few times throughout the beginning of the season here. I know that I watched a quick video yesterday on Twitter from our buddy Johnny from Gate 14, and he was really ranting about Schneider and his bullpen decisions and bringing out Zach Pop in that tight game against the Astros where Pop literally got completely blown up. I know that we were talking with Julia Cruz, and she even brought up, this was a couple weeks back, she brought up Schneider's decision-making and how he has kind of hung Tim Meza out to dry a few times. She didn't really like his usage of Tim Meza. And this has been brought up by numerous people that we have brought on the show. This isn't a new problem, and I don't even know if it's a problem because, number one, it is on the pitcher to perform when they come out of the bullpen. However, I don't know if anyone here has ever tried to unscrew a Roberts end screw with a flathead screwdriver. Okay. It can be done. It can be done. But my goodness, if you're using the right tool, it sure works a heck of a lot better.
Right.
And I think this is the argument being made currently on John Schneider. Is he putting these guys in the best position to succeed? I mean, when you look at all of the analytics and you look at how bullpens have been run for years and the splits that these managers consider of paramount importance, to watch John Schneider put some of these guys in precarious situations, it does make you scratch your head a little bit. Zach Pop is a great example. And I know Adam and I talked about this yesterday, right? And we kind of, my rant was, don't blame Zach Pop too much for this. He went out there and got 2 outs. Once there were 2 guys on base, he probably should have been pulled. Even bringing in Adam Simber was an interesting scenario there with 1 out. All right, sorry, with 2 outs. Listen, Adam Simber is a ground ball guy, and if you need a double play, I totally understand that. But he also gives up long fly balls and is prone to the home run. So I don't understand, with only needing 1 out, why he was the guy there. Zach Pop, his usage this year, there has been zero consistency. And I think all fans can point to the fact that he has been used in blowouts where the Jays are down. He's been used in blowouts where the Jays are up. He's been used in a hold situation where they're up by 2 or 3 runs. And then all of a sudden, he's in the highest leverage situation of his career. And again, we have talked about how Zach Pop probably needs to start getting some more high leverage situations. So that could have been all that it was. And it's tough to question one particular bullpen decision from a manager. But I am curious what the grounds crew thinks. And I'm curious what you think as well, Adam. Just drop a comment below, because we probably will tackle this in the mailbag. Okay. Where are you at on John Schneider and his bullpen usage in general? Do you have a problem with it? Point something out too, if maybe there's something that stood out throughout the season that made you scratch your head, and we can accumulate all of this and kind of dive in and mailbag. Where are you at, Adam?
Okay, well, I generally don't have an issue with it. That Zach Pop performance, maybe was an odd choice, but what's your confidence on like the rest of this bullpen too, right? Like Zach Pop, other than that particular game, had been one of our better pitchers.
He truly had been
in the bullpen, right? So for me, I can just, I mean, hindsight is always 20/20, right? It's always easy to look back and go, what a boneheaded, why you put him in there? He's clearly not ready. But when he's showing nothing but signs of competency, you reward a guy, right? If a guy's hitting, if Matt Chapman's hitting 500, you don't leave him in the 7 spot. You put him up in the cleanup, right? There's a little bit of that to it. Jimmy Garcia had just pitched the day before. So do you really want to put him back out there? He's also not pitched that well this year. Statistically, he's ERA 6.75, whip 1.25. Eric Swanson was available.
Was available, and that is the guy everyone keeps pointing to here.
Eric Swanson last played April 15th against the Rays, so he had 4 days off before that game against the Astros, or 3 days.
That is probably my only real problem with the way Schneider has done it, is like there have been times where you're like, why has this guy sat for 5 days?
And then the off day yesterday too, right? If there was no off day yesterday and we were going straight to New York, I can see the decision process of going, all right, well, we could put Eric Swanson in right now, but also we're probably going to need him tomorrow against the Yankees, or like we have a 3-game series against the Yankees. I know that you don't like punting on any games, but also it wasn't a hold situation. We weren't up 2-1. We were down 2-1, needing offense. and we had just run through the top of the order. So like maybe there was, but again, that's not quite the situation because it's not the Yankees the next day. Like even if we had used Eric Swanson, he still had a day off. Everybody got the day off. So yeah, I don't like that it wasn't Eric Swanson. So for me, it just comes down to Zach Pop had been pitching well and kind of earned an opportunity. So, and again, early in the season, you can afford to make those mistakes. I think. I know at the end of the year, we're going to be looking back at that one game, or there's always the ability to go back and be like, oh, we missed the playoffs by one game. If only we had started Eric Swanson in Houston or, whatever, which is terribly unfair. But he's got to learn pressure situations by being in pressure situations.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. We brought this up yesterday, right? You do not gain experience in high leverage situations without being put into some high leverage situations. It is kind of a forged in fire type of mentality, right? You don't get there without accumulating the knowledge from being through the ringer, right? Like you just can't know. In a playoff situation, in a high leverage situation, you do not want to go to a guy who hasn't been there before.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good his stuff is.
For sure.
And so in the long run, this may actually work out for John Schneider and the brass with the Toronto Blue Jays, who have decided to give Zach Pop a little bit more high leverage moments and see if it works out long term for them. Also, it's not just John Schneider. I mean, the Blue Jays constantly scream about collaboration top to bottom in the front office. So it's not like Pete Walker and the rest of the coaching staff isn't there giving advice and in John Schneider's ear. This is obviously the way that the group felt that they wanted to go. It doesn't mean it's right. But also, I don't think it's quite as big of a problem as maybe it's being made out to be currently.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
But it is something to keep your eye on, right?
It's something to keep your eye on. Sure. I have my confidence in John Schneider is as high as it's ever been. I think he's done nothing to make me think he's not the right guy to lead this team. I love John Schneider. I'm a John Schneider believer at this point. So
also, let's face it, as Blue Jays fans, we're kind of lucky. We're sitting at 11-8 on the season, and we are just dissecting everything that could be wrong.
Absolutely. Same game. I did like John Schneider's decision to pinch run for Alejandro Kirk.
I did too.
That worked out nicely. The next batter, Whit Merrifield, doubled because he's doubling all week long.
Yes.
And was it Espinal that pinch ran?
Yes.
Scored from first on that double.
Scored from first
to make the 2-0 game a 2-1 game, which started a nice little rally that ultimately we weren't able to complete. But I digress. Anything else to add there before we move on to Mad Max?
No, let's talk the sticky stuff and
Okay, Mad Max suspended 10 games.
Phil Cuzzy, by the way, the umpire who suspended him. There's only been 3 pitchers in all of baseball suspended, or I should say ejected from a game for sticky stuff. All 3 of them have been at the hands of Phil Cuzzy. I think this is coincidence. No, this happened last season as well. So two of these ejections were last season, and then Mad Max.
There's only been 2 pitchers removed for sticky stuff
that have been ejected from a game. It has been busted numerous times, and they tell them to go wash their hands. Very similar to what we watched happen with Domingo Germán. But yeah, there's only been 3 guys actually ejected from the game. And then, of course, as soon as you're ejected from the game, that results in an automatic suspension, is kind of how the disciplinary rollout happens there.
Everybody else that got caught cheating wasn't ejected from the game? What am I missing?
Nope.
What am I misunderstanding? So a guy is sticky stuff, and they're just like,
go wash your hands. It's Domingo Germán all over. Yes.
The whole sticky stuff crackdown. Is this a Mandela effect? What am I misremembering here, Scott? Are you... All the sticky stuff that we went through, was that last season or the year before?
It started the middle of 2021, right? June 26th, 2021, they implemented the rule.
Mm-hmm.
They were cracking down heavily.
But there was only
But I mean,
only 3 pitchers got in trouble for sticky stuff.
only 3 pitchers have
What?
been ejected from the game.
Okay, but this is what I'm saying. Is this a semantics thing where like a guy was suspended for sticky stuff, but he was on his way out of the game anyways, or removed
You
not
can't be
via
suspended.
ejection?
You can't be suspended unless you're ejected. So there's only been 3 suspensions for sticky stuff since this has been unrolled. Now, yes, they have caught guys with sticky stuff and been like, go wash your hands. I mean, even
Really?
Mad Max, Adam, look at like the way this rolled out. They caught him with, they said his hand was too sticky in the 2nd inning. They said, go wash it. He did. He comes back out in the 3rd, and then they found sticky substance in his glove, to which they said, go get a new glove. He switches his glove out, goes back to the bench, comes out in the 4th. They test him again and say his hand is even stickier than the first time, and then they ejected him.
Weird.
So it's a bit of a joke, dude. I know you're Googling right now and you're like, holy shit, there has only been 3 guys ejected.
I felt like 2021, there was a suspension and an ejection every, like, multiple times a week.
Nope. They caught guys and made them go wash their hands. It's been a little bit of a joke, in all honesty. I mean, even the talk at the beginning of the season, dude, you remember the talk at the beginning of the season when Manfred came out and like, we're cracking back down. Yeah. But I mean, obviously the term cracking down means different things to different people.
Weird. Okay. No, that's weird that I'm misremembering that. Huh. Okay. So all three ejections from the same umpire.
From the same umpire. And
you think that's just a coincidence?
I think it. I don't know, man.
I think it's no way it's a coincidence. I think this is one guy. I'm not saying like a conspiracy or an ego or any of those situations, but this feels like maybe one guy has the balls to actually go that far. You know, other guys are a little trepidatious about like, wow, do I really want to go through the hassle of all this paperwork? And he's going, we're doing paperwork.
And what's really interesting here, dude, is Max Scherzer was dead set on appealing this suspension. This is the way he was going to go about it. Scott Boras made announced this in his press conference. Then they walked it back. So Max Scherzer was fined an undisclosed amount. Then they went to appeal this decision. Major League Baseball said, we are going to lower your fine. Max Scherzer said, okay, perfect, cool. Then I won't appeal.
Interesting. Condolences to the Scherzer family, by the way, because he swore on his son's life that he wasn't using sticky stuff. So,
wow.
Good luck with the. I would just say if I was Max Scherzer's son, I'd be looking both ways before I cross the street for the next week. I'll tell you that for free. You think he's guilty? I think he did it.
I think he's guilty. I mean, listen, 3 times.
Why? Why would he do it?
You're busted 3 times. Because baseballs are slippery, and I mean, honestly, dude, when we talked to Rob Friedman, right, we brought up sticky stuff, and he even mentioned baseball is going to have a pre-stick ball, and that's coming out hopefully next year. But in the meantime, these guys are still trying to. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's not guilty, but 3 times.
Max Scherzer 3 times.
Well, I mean, 2nd inning, 3rd inning, 4th inning, 3 times in the same game.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Here's why I want to believe that he's innocent. Is just on the fandom of Hey Kami, because he was a big Max Scherzer guy, and he honestly, not to like oversell it, but is probably like a big reason in why we had the sticky stuff crackdown in the first place. From the work that he did exposing it, it became something that was too big to ignore, right? The way Joel was documenting it. So kudos to Joel for all the work he did there. And I really mean it, that I think if not for him, we wouldn't have gone through what we went through with the crackdown in the first place. he doesn't want to believe that Max Scherzer did this. He's a Max Scherzer fan. I like Max Scherzer too. Any guy with different colored eyeballs, you're off to a right start. I don't know why a guy with a Hall of Fame career, like shoe-in first ballot, would want to do anything at this point to give any.
Is it possible because he's been doing it his entire career?
Oh, Scott, these are some accusations here. No, I just think, look, every year we go through like the steroid voting, right? Of like, oh, is Roger Clemens going to get voted in? Is Barry Bonds ever going to make it? And all the moral high horses that all the voters choose to ride out into the sunset on. Fernando Tatis Jr. never going to make it to the Hall of Fame. I shouldn't say that. By the time he's eligible, the voters who are voting right now might all be dead, and it might be a new wave of voters who just don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
20-year-olds right now who are annoyed with voters who won't vote Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame are going to specifically be like, well, Fernando Tatis, nobody cares about steroids. So I shouldn't say that. But Max Scherzer is going to get voted on by those same crotchety old men who are like, steroids are cheating.
Yeah, but those crotchety old men don't feel the same way about sticky stuff.
Well, they don't understand sticky stuff. They don't understand what spin rate is.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's a pseudoscience to them. Bunch of bozos. Yeah. That's what I always say. No, I think it's crazy for someone who is 100 years old and at the end of their career to have an unblemished resume to risk it. Like even if he pitched horribly, even if he put up a 5 ERA this year and was awful, he's still going to get paid the rest of his contract. Probably. Do you think Max Scherzer gets another contract after this, or is he retired after this one?
He's retired after this one, I would say. I mean, he's 40 now. Like,
that's what I mean. So it's not like he's like, oh, I need to have a good season so I can get one more payday at 42 years old. So like,
it depends how you view it. Here is
cheating.
My counterpoint to this. Okay. Do you murder people, Adam?
I try and avoid it when possible.
Yeah, right. Adam is not a murderer.
Well, I said I avoid it when possible.
Have you gotten a speeding ticket? Have you gotten a speeding ticket?
Recently? No, but yes, in my life I have.
You view these as very, very different offenses, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Now, is it possible that pitchers in Major League Baseball have been using stuff to manipulate the ball for as long as baseball has been around, and that yes, some of them view spider tack as bullshit and cheating, but for the most part, they still all feel that they should be allowed to use pine tar and have since they were kids, and don't even view it as a breaking of the rules. They more so view it as Major League Baseball manipulating shit to try and affect free agency or whatever it may be, right? So I honestly believe that's probably the most likely thing. Max Scherzer just is like, this is a bullshit rule. I've done this my entire freaking career. Why are they cracking down on it now? I think that's more likely than him being like, I'm going to cheat because he just doesn't view it as cheating.
Sure, but also that's not really an apples to apples comparison. Like if I was just like to have a bridge in the city of Edmonton named after me, but like the week before the unveiling of my sign on this new bridge, the city of Edmonton also illegalized the eating of salt and vinegar potato chips. I wouldn't be like, well, screw you, I love salt and vinegar potato chips. I'd be like, maybe I just eat ketchup potato chips from now on, and I'm annoyed by the rule, but I don't want to risk my bridge being named after me over it. I don't know. I don't think he cheated. I think that's crazy to think he cheated. If you think he's cheating his whole career, that's a whole nother.
I don't even think it's cheating. Like it depends on. Listen, I don't think it was spider tack. I think he was just using what he uses all the time. They've been so lax on this rule. They let it go, and then as soon as the public is involved and can see it, they crack down.
So first of all, I don't know Max Scherzer's spin rate numbers. Someone in the grounds crew can do the homework for us, and they can look it up right now. Oh yeah, big drop off on spin rate during the crackdown. That's pretty incriminating evidence. That's hard to ignore. Okay. Now, as far as like, was he cheating? Is it cheating? From a legal and not like criminal standpoint, but from a like letter of the law, cheating is breaking of a rule, whether or not you agree with it, right? If there was a rule against it and he was doing it, then yeah, that's cheating. But would I be willing to do it? Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody who cheated and used spider tack should feel bad. Like, I don't, from like a moral standpoint.
No.
It's like anybody that uses steroids. I mean, you got to compete with what the guy next to you is doing. Right? So like, I don't fault anybody for using steroids. And I know we can get into the whole argument of like, well, steroids were never specifically prohibited or whatever. We can get into that whole another time. But I don't have a problem with anybody. I just think it's crazy that if you were a first ballot Hall of Famer on your final contract, that at this point even if you have been cheating your whole time and you've gotten away with it, I think it's crazy to not just ride off into the sunset and be like, well, no blemishes on my career. I'm going straight to the Hall. It's just giving people an excuse to not vote for him when there was no excuse before. I still think he'll get into the Hall of Fame over this, but there's people who are going to use this as a reason to vote no, and that's
I guess
crazy
so.
to me.
I just don't even think that he views it as cheating, and I just think that it wasn't spider tack and it was too sticky for the ump. And there's probably a million examples of where this could have happened. But Max Scherzer is a bit of an a-hole when it comes to treating the umps. And I think it might have just been he got too aggressive and they were like, screw you. We were going to let you go on just washing your hand every
Could
inning.
be a factor.
But
yeah.
But anyways, let's move on. This drama, this saga of whether they're going to leave or not. I mean, this A's ownership has been doing their best to make this inevitable for the last 10 years. This ownership group wants to be in Las Vegas. That is where the money is. That is what they want to do. They just purchased some land for $1.5 billion. They purchased some land to build a $1.5 billion stadium on it. It looks like 2027, the Oakland A's are going to be in Las Vegas. This isn't 100% for sure.
There's no way it happens.
I do think that
I'm very much against
some
you on
leverage.
this.
Okay. I do think that there is some leveraging going on here. I'm just literally saying what the news was saying. I haven't even said my opinion yet.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the A's ownership group, they're dog shit, doing everything they can to get out of Oakland. They are using this as leverage, I think, to try and get the city of Oakland to, number one, give them land, number two, subsidize the building. There's a lot of money with expansion, and I know Major League Baseball would love to take that expansion fee, and Vegas does line up very well with that. So does Nashville, which makes sense that there's probably two teams coming in expansion at some point in the next maybe as little as 5 years to make this a 32-team league. Yeah, there's some things that need to be figured out in Oakland. You can say the same thing about Tampa Bay, but this is some pretty big news here, despite it maybe being all for show. Adam, get into it. What are you thinking, bud?
Yeah,
You'll believe it when you see it?
No,
Yeah,
I don't think I'll ever see it. I have zero. If you gave me a percentage that I had to put on this, I would put 0% chance that Oakland moves to Las Vegas. I think
really
0% chance. Even with this like land agreement for a stadium, like this is not relocating a team isn't just up to Oakland's ownership. Like it needs it. If nothing else is enough of a standing block other than this is enough. It needs to be voted on and approved of by the other owners. There you go. Not happening.
Okay.
Because they're all going to get a share of that expansion fee. Vegas is not getting a old franchise. They're getting a new one. Oakland's not moving until Vegas has one. It's probably going to happen soon, but this is, for me, nothing more than leveraging and trying to put pressure on the city of Oakland to get a new stadium built, which is also unfair because I feel like Oakland owner still wants out whether there's a new I don't think the old stadium in Oakland is why he's not happy there. I don't know. It's too bad. It's too bad for the Oakland fans. Maybe they get a shiny new ballpark though, and then the owner's like, "Hey, this is cool. I have a shiny new state-of-the-art facility that I don't know. There's no way." Now, that being said, there is some revenue sharing factors involved here. So, pull this up here. I'm not 100% clear on this, but Oakland does get penalized on revenue sharing. I think they were outright removed from it at some point, and they are working their way back towards a revenue share. So this is according to multiple websites, but this particular one is MLB Trade Rumors. It says the A's received 25% of a full revenue share in 2022. This year they would get a 50% share. Next year, 75%. And then back to 100% in ensuing years, but only if they secure a ballpark deal by January 15th, 2024. So the clock is ticking on that for whatever a factor that is, but like Oakland needs to figure out something with a ballpark. I don't think that this how does Vegas work as a franchise? Do you think that is a tourist supported team or is that a locals supported team?
Well, it was really interesting when I went to check out their AAA team, the Las Vegas Aviators. I went and saw them when I was there a couple weeks ago, and they played the Oklahoma City Dodgers, and they had a great turnout. It's a beautiful little park, and it is out in the suburbs, and that team is supported completely by the locals. In fact, we were talking to some of the people there. We were like literally the only tourists that went, and they were really impressed. And they were just talking about how, yeah, they're big Knights fans. They don't really give a shit about the NFL team. That is, the NFL team is basically all tourists. Mm-hmm. They care about the Knights and they go to the Knights games, but the Aviators are their team, or at least that was everyone that we were talking to there, because it's not on the Strip. It's not, in the heart of tourist country in Vegas. It's the people who live there. So there's like this sense of baseball community. So I think if they were to do it,
this land
it would be
deal,
the opposite.
This land deal that they have secured in Vegas is also a mile and a half off the Strip. I think we want our cake and eat it too. Idea. We want the suburbs to feel like this isn't a touristy town, but we also want the people from the Strip to be able to
come see a ball game. Yeah.
I don't know. When I see Oakland is finally moved, this feels like just more posturing. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think it will.
I was just going to say exactly that. I'll believe it when I see it. We can move on from here, but definitely interesting that Oakland is bucking up money to buy land in Vegas, but we'll see how that plays out. Okay, we're going to go on to the fact that the oldest stadium in baseball celebrated its 111th birthday yesterday, Fenway Park in Boston. I don't know how many of you have been there. I've been to Fenway Park, and it is, again, this is coming from someone who can't stand the Red Sox. It is magic. There is just magic in the bones of that stadium. When you're in the bowels of Fenway, probably not the best way, but when you're down in the lower part of Fenway, it does feel like the bowels. It's like very narrow hallways. The roof, you're kind of like you can bang your head on stuff, and you're just like it's old. There's no room, right? Like it's just, anyways, very, very cool that Fenway Park is 111 years old. There's not another sports stadium in North America that's older than that.
Very cool.
We don't need to spend too much time on the Boston Red Sox and Fenway Park, but worth mentioning there anyways.
Would Fenway ever be replaced?
That's a great question, man. They have done renos on that place for 100 years. It would be a sad day, but I mean, Yankee Stadium finally built a new stadium, right? And maybe that I'm sure if they were to build a new stadium in Boston, that there would be a definite tip of the hat salute to Fenway in the design of the new stadium. I can imagine it having some of the
Think they'd have a green monster?
A green monster just out of like to have it. I don't know, man. Yeah. That's a really good question. I can't see it, but I mean, time keeps ticking, and
I mean, it can't last forever.
It can't last forever, right?
I don't know. Keep throwing Band-Aids on it. I think it's cool. It's definitely cool. All right, we got a bunch more stuff from around the league to get to before we get out of here.
Madison Bumgarner DFA'd yesterday.
Yeah. Do you want him on your team?
That is wild, dude. No, I don't want him on the Jays. Do you?
Oh, let's see how Jose Barrios' next start goes. No, I don't. I mean, we talk Max Scherzer and Hall of Fame pitchers. Madison Bumgarner, Hall of Fame pitcher.
I don't know. Listen, it's an interesting debate because Madison Bumgarner, I would say probably not. However, he was like the most dominant pitcher in baseball for about 5 to 10 years or 5 to 7 years there. I mean, that 2014 World Series win with the Giants, where he was the starting pitcher in pretty much twice every 7-game series, came in and closed the game out in Game 7. Like, he was just such a dominant, crazy performance that is amongst some of the best performances ever in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, his World Series numbers are, I think, almost
insane.
stand for themselves.
Yeah,
on a world,
it's almost insane,
like on a Hall of Fame ballot. You could give me almost any. I can't imagine how bad his regular season numbers would have to be for me to ignore the fact of what he's done in the World Series, let alone like in the playoffs, but just,
yeah.
I don't know. For me, Madison Bumgarner's definitely a Hall of Famer.
A Hall of Famer.
And it's just as simple as, yeah, those numbers he's put up.
You know what? Just from his playoff performance, you're probably right. It's tough to argue. I mean, you do got to look at the full body of work, but my goodness, what he did in the playoffs is just absolutely elite.
This doesn't even really touch on, like you said, him closing out games, him pitching on short rest, all those extra factors that like make these numbers that more impressive. Like, anybody that's interested, go watch a video on him. But just the stat line on this. So in 3 years, he has 5 games, 0.25 ERA across 36 innings pitched.
He was unhittable.
Yeah, like,
and the numbers show it. He was unhittable. And I mean, if you can make the Hall of Fame just on playoff career, he's a guy who should be there. Liam Hendricks. Sorry. Did you?
I was just going to say
anything to add there?
We did kind of just touch on the fact that he was released by the Diamondbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So he'll clear. Someone's going to pick him up for league minimum.
I would say
700,000
so.
roughly prorated over the course of the rest of the season. He'll probably end up on the Yankees or something, and it's going to drive me nuts.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that the Diamondbacks are eating there.
Okay, Liam Hendriks, good news.
Very good news. Liam Hendriks, of course, diagnosed with cancer over the offseason, which is why he is not with the White Sox currently, but he is officially cancer-free. He is in remission. No word as to when he's going to be back to baseball activities, but I would guess that probably pretty soon, which is about as the most amazing thing you could possibly hear. Liam Hendriks, an incredible dude, former Blue Jay, Perth, Australia, hometown, and has really put baseball on the map in Australia. He's been a big factor with increasing the interest in down under, and just really cool to see him cancer-free, in remission, looking good. All the best to Mr. Hendriks.
All the best to Mr. Hendriks. Absolutely.
27-year-old, unless you have something to add there.
Nope. Go ahead.
So 27-year-old Pablo Lopez got a big extension from the Twins, of course. He was a part of that Luis Arraez trade where they sent Arraez to the Miami Marlins. Luis Arraez, by the way, just finished hitting for the cycle. He was the first Miami Marlin to ever hit for the cycle. Pretty darn good trade, right? All-star first baseman Arraez goes to Miami. All-star Pablo Lopez goes to the Twins, and then the Twins managed to get him under contract for another 3 years on top of this ARB year. So it's 4 years that eats this final year of arbitration, $73.5 million.
There you go. Speaking of contracts and extensions, did you see the news in Manfred? Little press conference there the other day about heading into the next CBA. The owners want to limit contract length.
No.
Yeah, we should talk about that on.
Yeah, we'll bring that up on Long Toss.
Long Toss.
Good idea.
I mean, we're 4 years away from the end of the CBA. Anyways, it runs through the end of 2026. But
could be a bad one. Yeah,
I mean,
could be a bad one.
Shohei's going to get a mega deal. Juan Soto's going to get a mega deal. Bichette, Vladdy, all these guys, mega deals, long deals. We're talking these 13-year contracts,
15
right?
years, yes.
That, I think, is what the league wants to reduce.
Owners want to reduce their risk. Of course they do.
So, and they're going to... So, I was watching the David Samson podcast, and his analysis of this is simply the owners want to sow discourse in the players' union, right? They want to fracture that union because that's always good for negotiations, right? Is get the old players and the young players on different pages, right? And what this would mean more money for younger players. Not any sort of dollars savings, but whatever. Anyways, just from an interesting standpoint of if you are a player who's coming up on free agency after this CBA, maybe there is an incentive to sign that 13-year deal earlier if you're worried that, well, if I wait till the next CBA, I might not be able to get a 13-year deal, right? So unfortunately, Vlad and Bo are both free agents before this CBA expires, so that's no incentive for them to sign early, but something to keep an eye on.
Okay, lastly, before we go to what you watch, and worth mentioning, Bryce Harper, who had supposedly season-ending Tommy John surgery November 23rd, just announced that it looks like he is going to be back playing baseball in 2 weeks, Adam.
That's the first baseman.
This has never been done. This has never been done. There has never been a player to return from Tommy John surgery in that 6-month window. It is absolutely crazy that this is something that he is about to attempt. I am so curious to see how this plays out. Fingers crossed that he doesn't re-injure something or set himself back or anything like that. You would think, though, that the training staff with the Phillies would be adamant that he's ready before letting him come back. So maybe with his transition to first base, never needing to play in the outfield, if he's feeling healthy enough to swing a bat, I mean, that is a huge boost for a struggling Phillies team that has already had more than their fair share of injuries to start 2023.
Bryce Harper has historically been on my I don't like this guy list.
Yeah,
But
me too. But man, I'm becoming a
it's hard
fan.
not to like this, man. This is a guy who is in no, like, he's getting paid whether he plays or not. He's under contract until he's 38. So this is not a guy who's like, well, I need to go out there because I got a contract like I got free agency coming up in 2 years and I gotta show like my value on the free agent. Like, it's nothing. It's just the love of baseball and wanting to help his team win. To move from the outfield to first base, like being a full-time DH last year. This is a guy who just wants to be out there, and there's something I gotta tip the cap to about that. I love that about Bryce Harper. As much as it pains me to admit it, credit where credit's due. Bryce Harper is winning me over. Love to see it.
I couldn't agree more. I am right there with you. He's a dude that I always thought was overrated when he first came onto the league, just because he was constantly shoved down our throats as fans. But he has proven himself time and time again. He went from the most overrated player to probably one of the most underrated players. Yeah. He's sitting at 30 years old with the biggest rehab of his life sitting in front of him, and to beat the clock by 50% is, I mean, it's awesome. It's a storybook type tale, and I wish him all the best, especially in that National League. Who cares? Go ahead and help the Phillies.
Yeah, absolutely. Might as well.
To wrap this up, what you watching? I know we're going to squeeze that in here. We probably didn't need it on this show, but it's a fun little episode we like to do. Absolutely.
That's some fun stuff. So I'll go first, and then we got a fun thing for the community at the very end. But I spent this week watching Jury Duty. Not the Pauly Shore movie. It's a 8-episode comedy series, which hard to find how to watch it. It's on Freevee, which is not a streaming service I'd ever heard of. It's like a subsidiary of Amazon, but it's only in the States. So you need a VPN to watch it, or just download it illegally like I did. The premise of this show, it is following a 12-person jury over the course of a single trial. It's like behind the scenes footage, seeing them deliberate, seeing them sequestered in their hotel, getting along, whatever. The gimmick here is that 11 of these people are actors, and only one jury member is genuinely there. So he's like, along for the ride, thinks this is a real trial. The judge is fake, the case is fake, the lawyers, everybody's fake, the bailiffs are fake. It's all staged for him, and it's not a perfect comedy, but it is different, and I respect different, and it is very good. It is very good, and it's different.
If this was you, would you be upset with being tricked to such a extensive level?
I mean, I'm uncomfortable with all of those like hidden camera, candid camera, gotcha type funny shows, just because I don't think I would do like the good thing. When they're like, oh, there's a wallet on the ground, and it's like, here's this hero who picked it up and just like returned it with the $500 cash inside. I feel like I would have taken the cash. So I would hate that on a like busted, this guy returned the wallet, but it was empty. What a dirtbag, So in that regard, I feel like if I was on a hidden camera jury show, because they keep setting him up, and I don't want to like spoil any of the show. I do recommend watching it, because it's not like anything I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
It was not what I expected, and it's better than I expected. Not perfect, but it's definitely worth the 8 episodes that it is. They keep setting him up with all these like really weird opportunities for him to be like, what the fuck is going on? Excuse my language, but like,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
going on here? But he's is just like such a good dude that like he really comes across very likable. So for his situation, there's no way he'd be mad because he comes off looking like an absolute hero in the end, right? Like, I don't know.
Love it. And
Very
I'm
weird
I'm
show.
honestly, I'm not in the middle of watching anything. The wife and I were watching Why the Last Man, which is like an
Ooh,
apocalypse
I read the comic
type
books.
of show. Okay.
Yeah.
We're about 3 episodes in and it's been pretty good, but she is visiting her parents in Edmonton, and so that's a no-fly zone this weekend. She even left
Gotcha.
being like, "Don't you watch any of that
Don't
without
you
me." And
watch it without me.
yeah.
Fair enough. Well, we do have something to watch on Sunday. We're getting together for live streams. Again,
Yes.
kind of with a
Kind
twist.
of. Yes.
So live streams are back. They are going to be a Patreon exclusive. So if you're part of the Patreon, thank you. And we'll see you Sunday. We'll send out a Zoom link. Everybody
Yeah.
can hop in the Zoom with us. We'll watch the game. Probably going to have it where everybody's muted except for Scott and I, just so we're not 25 people hogging the mic talking over each other. But there'll be the chat, so we can still chat.
Yeah.
And then if anybody does want to turn on the mic to say something, I don't have a problem with letting someone
Yeah,
speak up or whatever.
obviously.
Just so it's not a muddy mess, though. It'll be mostly Scott and I. So that's a Patreon exclusive. So if you enjoyed the live streams that we did last couple seasons on Tuesdays, we're doing this Sunday against the Yankees. We're just gonna hang out, watch the game, and then of course long toss afterwards. So,
And I know we've had 3 new Patreon members in the last, I think it's 5 days. And just to reiterate what a big deal it is to Adam and I, we do truly appreciate anyone who pays that buck a week. I know that
every time we lose a sponsor,
yeah.
we look at our Patreon and thank goodness they're still there. So
Yeah,
appreciate
couldn't
all of
agree
you.
more. So really appreciate Patreon. Send us a DM, okay? Listen, and Adam, I will need to grab that Discord link off of you. I need to send it to a couple people here, but feel free to DM us for that Discord link. That is happening constantly. Always Blue Jays talk, always baseball talk, 24/7. You definitely want to be in on the Discord. Plus, we comb through it for mailbag. You can always reach out for mailbag on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast. We're pushing 2,000 followers on Twitter, so feel free to give us a follow there. Every little bit helps. The Walk Off Podcast on Instagram. Honestly, grounds crew, all of you listening, could not appreciate you more. It is just such a fun little community here amongst the Walk Off folks to be a part of. So thanks to all of you. We'll see you on Sunday for Long Toss. Cheers.
Bye, Dad.